All right. Good afternoon. My name is Jason Dvorkin. I lead industry business development at AWS across media and entertainment, games, and sports. Welcome to How the PGA Tour Teed Up Automated Broadcast Production. And turning right to my right, let me introduce you to Michael Raimondo. Michael, you want to say a few words about you and what you do at the tour?
Sure. Mike Raiondo, I oversee broadcast technology at the tour. What does that mean? I oversee media asset management, engineering, technical operations, transmission, and remote production. Been there for 23 years now.
Awesome. So you've given me an interesting stat over the years that we've done this together. PGA Tour produces more hours of golf content than any network that actually covers golf. Can you give me a rundown of all the production that you guys do?
Yeah, sure. So I'll go back, say, 12, 15 years ago. Golf was only shown on air 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock Thursday through Sunday. So out of 32,000 shots, around 3 to 4% of all golf shots were shown on television. In our last TV rights deals, what we ended up doing was ESPN came to us and said, "Can you produce 4 streams of ESPN Plus for us?" So featured groups, featured marquee groups, featured holes, as well as a main feed. And also at the same time, Golf Channel came to us and asked us to also produce PGA Tour Champions and Corn Ferry Tour. So we produce about 7,000 hours of golf content in a year. We are now on a PGA Tour event. We've gone from 3% of golf shots up to about 28 to 30% of golf shots that are shown on a typical weekend. That also, yeah, you can go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
You can go to the next one.
Now, in doing all of that production, you guys are clearly no stranger to a production model of on-prem traditional REMI production. You guys went through and built your own production trucks a couple years ago to aid the broadcasters in storytelling and helping to produce golf. Can you dive a little deeper into one of the productions that you do every year at the Players Championship called Every Shot Live, and what makes that product so unique?
Yeah, so I was just talking about the percentage of golf shots that are shown. So each year at Players Championship in March, TPC Sawgrass, what we do is we cover every single shot. So if there's 30,000 shots, we will cover every single one of them. So what does that mean? More deployment, more people on site, camera guys, audio guys, all of that. The difference with that one compared to our other productions is we push every single camera. So not all, but most of them. We pushed this past year 73 cameras up into AWS. We had people either in Atlanta or over in London that would be assigned a specific group. They would follow group one from hole 1 through hole 18. So 44 groups teed off on Thursday. We had 44 live streams. Same thing with Friday. 44 groups teed off. We had 44 live streams. That entire thing is produced in AWS. It is also distributed in AWS as well. So our domestic partner, which was ESPN, as well as all of our international partners that took it, was all distributed. If one of them wanted an HLS, if one of them wanted an SRT, it all depended on what it was. We were able to set that up for them to be able to distribute it that way. It is a massive undertaking on the course. When we used to do it years ago, we would bring in racks worth of equipment just to power them up, just to get everything connected. It would take us about 4 days. Now what we do is we spin it up in, say, February, make sure everything is working, spin it back down in AWS. When we get to site, we now spin it up the Monday of the tournament and then test everything and get ready to go for our Thursday show. It is even though it is very large of what we do, how many hours we do is about 790 hours over a 4-day period, just to be able to produce that one show.
And it's not just covering every single shot. It's all the storytelling. It's all of the graphics. It's maintaining the leaderboard. It's giving these international broadcasters the ability to tell the story their own way if they wanted to as part of that package. One of the things that I think is unique that you do with Every Shot Live, besides covering Every Shot Live, is there's no announce. And that was a deliberate choice. And do you want to talk a little bit about why and what you see come from having that as a clean broadcast?
Well, there's a couple reasons for that. I mean, if you think about it, we have 44 live streams. We don't really have 44 announcers or 88 announcers to be able to do that. But we did. So when we send it international, I'll give you an example of in Japan, Hideki Matsuyama. Japan loves Hideki Matsuyama, one of the golfers from Japan. Instead of taking the main broadcast, they showed him. And they showed him from hole 1 through hole 18. Um, because he is a fan favorite and they'd rather watch him the entire day. And so they announced it. So they put their own announce on it. When we send it over into other countries, they're doing the same thing. They will put their own announcers and show their own home favorite players. But we wanted to have also kind of the natural beauty of being outside on the golf course and hear birds chirping and hear other things the entire time as well. You hear more player interaction. The microphones that are on the greens or microphones that are on the tee boxes, you can hear that without announcers on it as well. So we've tried to keep it as clean as we possibly could, but it also allows us to use that in other shows as well. So in case somebody gets a hole in one or another shot, it gives us that clean feed that we can go ahead and use in other shows.
And I think what's interesting too, so obviously the Players is a fantastic tournament. It has a lot of eyeballs, but you're also doing for international partners your enhanced world feed on a weekly basis. How do you see what you do with Every Shot Live at the Players complementing the coverage of the internet of the enhanced world feed? How does that world feed in the weeks when you don't have an Every Shot Live meet that same moment of bringing the fans in the local markets, the players they want to see?
Yeah, so I'll talk through a couple things first to make sure everyone knows what the world feed is. So when I was saying before, we produce the four shows for ESPN on the PGA Tour event. Our domestic partner, CBS, NBC, Golf Channel, are still producing it on site for those shows. Some of them do it remotely. But what we used to do years ago was we would just take the network broadcast back to our facility. In commercial breaks, we would insert an announcer and some footage and or graphics, and then send it out internationally. Now, wherever you are in the world, if you are outside of the U.S. and you watch a PGA Tour event, it's coming from our facility. What we are doing is we are branding it with a PGA Tour look. We are branding it with our graphics package. We have our own announcers. All that is out there so that wherever you are, Australia, Japan, no matter what it is, it's branded through a PGA Tour look and feel now. With the ability, so what the reason we do that is also is so that we can enhance it with players that are not being shown, say, on a domestic broadcast that are international flavored. When we have Every Shot Live, we're able to take that content and then mix that into that show as well, so that we provide our partners more of what they want to see.
Awesome. So covering every shot with Every Shot Live, you're doing the world feed every week. Let's get to the headline of the title of the event. What sparked you guys to go on this journey of how do we automate production? What if we could automate production? What does that mean? Because I'm sure some people here who are freelancers who sit in trucks are going, whoa, 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 don't automate my production. But talk to us a little bit about what that journey was and what that could bring from a scale perspective or efficiency perspective.
Yeah, so I'll talk about the product as well. So we just talked about Every Shot Live. We talked about ESPN. We talked about the World Feed. We also have another product that we use for Sport Radar. Sport Radar is a gaming for gambling purposes. They have asked us to do the first par three and the last par three, where we stream that to them. And what that is there's a T camera, there's a green camera, and there are some graphics. And so what we are doing is Shotlink is our official scoring system. That's where all the data comes from. And so what we end up doing with that is if you look at a timeline, so say there's a timeline, in Premiere or Avid, and the timeline on top is data. When that data hits a certain mark, that'll tell us at this point of data, switch the camera from the T camera to the green camera. When it hits another data point, it'll tell us, go ahead and add this graphic on. Another data point may say, take the graphic off. Another data point may say, go ahead and switch back to that T camera. And so what we've done is evaluated every single data point that we have, lined it up with where a human, where we would typically say, this is where we want to switch this. This is the graphic that we want to add into this. So what we did is we built a rundown. And that rundown is what would it be built out if we did it this way? And we chose that product because there's no replay in it, there's no announce in it. It is just for people if they want to gamble on something and they want to say, I want to see what this shot is going to be. I just want to see it. And so when we evaluated every single one of those data points, what we did is we lined them up from this is what we'd want from a video perspective. This is what we would want from a graphics perspective. Go ahead and put, this data point matches this. This data point matches this. Then there's also some of the pieces where we may not have had data points that we may have to have create data points to make sure that they still line up. And so we launched that at Players this past year. And I would say it was very successful. It was probably exceeded our expectations of how good it was able to switch cameras, add graphics, and we had I think there were 5 graphics templates, and it depended on what the data said is what graphics actually came up and what they showed. But overall, client was happy. There's a couple of tweaks that we've made over the past couple of weeks, but that show, if you will, is on air for about 10 hours a day. So if you think about it, 20 hours each day for the first stream and the second stream, and you put that over 4 days or 80 hours of content that we're automating on a weekly basis just for that product.
So let's step through it. And you did a great job of kind of explaining the process. And obviously it comes back to that data foundation and the fact that you guys track every movement of the golf ball, the flight of the golf ball, where it lands. So it's not an Augusta situation where you can't find said golf ball. You can actually see what's happening. And if we walk through this next one here, we can kind of illustrate here a little bit exactly what you were describing for our friends in the audience here of what this production looked like.
Yeah. So what this is, the bottom right, you'll see a switcher that's down there, and it's basically taking the data points and either adding a graphics or taking the graphics off or hitting the switcher and doing it that way. So the bottom part of the switch on the bottom right, you can see the green and the red, and you just saw the red go to camera 2. And so what it's doing is we're just showing this in a way of, like I mentioned, that timeline. It's showing you the data points as they're coming in and the automation with the video switcher to be able to key stuff on and off. What we're not showing you on this side of it is the other layer of the graphics of what's triggering the graphic look and what's triggering it, which one it wants to bring on and which one it wants to bring off. And really what we were doing is we built a custom interface between our scoring system and the API with the video switcher, as well as our graphics engine, just to be able to auto switch each one of those feeds.
I think what's awesome is, you saw just a second ago in the program monitor, there's the trace. You could follow the ball exactly as you would on TV. Hero graphic there, leaderboard on the side. It's everything that you would want. And this is just running based on the data foundation that you have. And with this product, Michael, traditionally, are you using broadcast cameras for this? Are you bringing additional cameras out on the course to provide the 3-view product?
Yeah, so our current mode right now is broadcast cameras. So the T-Box camera is a lockdown. We don't typically move that in a broadcast, but the green camera, which it'll switch to right here, is manned. That one is fully manned as of right now. Yep.
And since this has been successful, you guys have been doing this since March. Give the audience a little flavor of where do we want to take this? Where do you see this going, and how does this transform as the year continues to tick by and going into 27?
Yeah, so we have a lot of things that we've been working on. One of the things that during Players Week I mentioned the Every Shot Live is the automation of being able to take that to the next level. So part of it is, do we automate the entire Every Shot Live? And so instead of having the operators from a company that we've been using be able to push buttons to be able to do this, is we've proven now that we can do this from hole 1 through hole 18 with a single group. But really, some of the next steps that we're going to be taking with this is when I have multiple cameras on the green, is the agentic piece of it, of how to choose what the best angle is on that green. so that we can say choose camera 5 as opposed to camera 4, or choose camera 6 versus camera 3. And so that is the next evolution of where we're going with this. We've been doing some testing out with that side of it already. And so that'll be the next evolution for this product, as well as others. And so what we're seeing here is kind of the foundation of where we want to get to. And so pieces of it will help stay within this 3-view product. The next of it will be Every Shot Live. But really, the other part of it is that in our main productions is pulling some of this stuff out. So say it's graphics. It may end up being that the graphics can be automated in, say, a featured hole, because we know how to pull the exact graphic of when that should be triggered onto that. So it may not be replacing any of our domestic broadcast stuff or any of our ESPN stuff that we have now, but some of this stuff will be used within those productions.
So as you think about introducing agentic AI into selecting the camera, how do you see that impacting the storytelling and what you can now, based on the data you have about the fans, knowing what your fans like to watch across these products, how does that start to shape how that narrative goes and what else you could potentially layer on top of this from a graphic standpoint or from an angle standpoint to tell that story?
Yeah, there's a couple of things with that one. So one of the things that we've been building out too is we call it we'll just call it a star system for our shots. And so say it's a 1 through 5 star. What that will really tell us to do is where do we want to go with the next shot? What do we want to do with that next shot? What shot should we be showing? But honestly, in a product like this one, or a product like the Every Shot Live, is we can also take that other data. And what we'll do with that is we can build a playlist off of that data and then say, oh, here's a rollout that's coming. Let's go ahead and do this so that we can go back and do some more replay stuff based off of the data that we have as well. So what you're seeing now is just purely a live side of it. But in the future, what we've been talking about is let's go ahead and take the data. Let's figure out what Shotlink is telling us is the really good shots that happen. I may then go back and say, all right, give me the 3 best shots that either happened on this hole or that happened within this group, and then let's go use them for some rollouts or other highlight pieces, and eventually use it for our fans as well. The one piece that I did not mention earlier on the Every Shot Live piece of it is in the Every Shot Live product, we do what we call live streaming. So those 48 groups or 44 groups are all live. We also clip every single shot that is there for our Tourcast product. If you haven't seen Tourcast within our app, it is a 3D animation of every single hole. So you'll get a hole by hole shot sequence within there. We add that video to there as well. So not only do you see the graphical image of it, but you also see the video of it as well. And the third thing within that product is we also create a speed round. And that is an automated process that we do right now. And that what I mean by speed round is if it takes a player 15 or 4 hours to play a golf tournament for that day, it breaks it down to about 15 minutes of golf action. So if it took him 70 shots to play, we will put a sequence together that all 70 of his shots are there. We do that for two things. One of them is for our players themselves. If you go back to, say, the last couple playoffs, Scotty Scheffler was one of the players that used it the most. He would go in there. The agents, their coaches also have access to it. And then it's also for the fans. We do create that so fans can have access to see it if they want to see it from their favorite players as well.
And I think too, since you mentioned Tourcast, you announced a new feature at the Players, the On the Range, where you were using that Shotlink data to help track and see what was happening when the players would warm up or go to the range after the round. Do you see that data set or that type of an impact transitioning into the broadcast space as well, or being able to provide some of those signals cross products?
I will say, for my side of it, I love data. So any type of data that we can use to leverage within a broadcast, we are absolutely going to use it. So there's no question about that. As we get more data off of the course, it just helps us tell stories better. And it'll help us provide to fans either customization and other data points that they've never seen before that will be interesting to them in the long run.
Yeah, and I think what's neat about that as well is you guys as an organization there was a panel earlier today, and a lot of people at NAB over the past couple of days have heard about AI. Not probably for the first time, but you've heard about AI somewhere at the show over the past couple of days. But I think what you guys have done a really good job of is it's asking what if. It's not being afraid to try something, and it's not being afraid to fail. And how do you instill that type of a culture, whether it is on the digital side of the business, whether it is in the broadcast, where we all know that in a live production environment,
Yeah.
you expect something to go wrong and you know how to course correct if you fail. But
Right.
how do you innovate as fast as you guys have? Because how long did it take to stand up automated production for what you did?
So we tested it actually at reInvent last year at the end of November, and we went live with it in March. So yeah, so a few months is really what it is. So to your original question, so we have a new CEO at the PGA Tour. He came from the NFL. Ryan Rollup is his name. In his first meeting to the entire company, one of the things that he mentioned was, if it ain't broke, break it and fix it and make it better. And so that philosophy kind of can hold true for us of like, how do we actually get better at stuff? Well, we need to innovate. And that's one of the things he does. He pushes from an innovation standpoint. He expects everybody to innovate in their own field of play, whatever they are doing of, how can we get better at what we do? And so from the technology side, we've really taken to that of fan facing stuff is where we are. Our side of it is what are we doing for our fan? This type of stuff can bring more content to fans. However we do it, taking the data is one thing. Also, the video is another thing. And so whatever we do moving forward is going to be fan facing is really what we try to do from our side.
And I think, too, one of the other innovations that you guys introduced last season that'll be fun to see how it starts to factor into an automated production environment is the drone and the trace from above. Talk about what you guys saw with that, how that could expand into this as well, and really start to change the way people watch golf.
Right. Yeah, so there's a group of us that get together, kind of talk about different innovation stuff and who's working on what data points, and we kind of share those every couple of weeks of what we're doing, why we're doing it, and when Shotlink gets different data points, when they let people know whether on the broadcast side and everything, we kind of work together on what it would be kind of cool if we can do tracing for this or tracing for that. And so right now we have to have a piece of hardware on a camera in order to do a trace, especially if it's an RF camera. And so what we're working on and what we've done is said, what's the hardest thing to do? Well, it's probably a drone. You can't have a piece of hardware on it like a TrackMan device to be able to do it. And so we ended up doing that as our kind of our go forward with, let's see if we can do a trace on a drone. It's proved extremely valuable for our broadcast. It's been a really big hit for our fans of what they want to see. I mean, honestly, our fans, what they really want to see is a trace on every single shot. And that's where we're going. We are working right now to be able to do that. The drone was our first iteration of being able to do something like this, not having to have a device on it, but being able to use image recognition of where it is. We use LiDAR on the course with a drone beforehand, so we know data points across the entire course. And so that leads back into where is that drone located? What is it pointing at? Now, if it knows from a TrackMan perspective where that ball is going, it can overlay the trace on top of it. So we're now taking that technology and bringing it down to the course level. So any single camera that's out there, how do we get a trace that's on that for every single camera that's out there without having to have a hardware device?
Awesome. So, as someone who's been in this industry for a while, what excites you most? What do you think about right now as you've walked through the halls? You've heard everybody talk about AI. You guys are obviously pushing the boundaries here with what you can do with AI for production. What excites you most, and what do you see coming next?
Yeah. So what excites me both, I mean, anything we can do to actually provide more content for fans that is relevant and timely is probably the biggest thing that we work on a daily basis on our side of things. I mean, what excites me most though is it's a tough question to ask me this. Yeah, I'm definitely a tech geek. So the answer that you get from me is probably a little bit different. So I started out 2010. We did our MAM, our media asset management system, and that's where we add a lot of metadata. So data is huge with everything that we do, and we do a lot of automation within that from a record standpoint and everything. But that is where the end goal of everything that data is added is in the end of the media supply chain. This past year, we rolled out something called Hawkeye. Hawkeye is our replay system. Most people use EBS in this industry. We ended up switching over to Hawkeye, and we actually add in all of our Shotlink data into Hawkeye. So now we allow quick and easy access to get to Scotty Scheffler 15th hole second shot by hitting two buttons, and bang, we're there, and we can actually play it out very, very quickly. So it changed the way we do golf because of that fact. So what am I geeking out on? Like, what do I like to do is that I am bringing it back. I want my metadata at the very beginning of the media supply chain. I want to actually put it at the very beginning. And this goes directly into this automated production is if I go into the 2110-40 and I start inserting my data at that stage of the game, everything downstream now has data. So if I say this is the 18th green and I take my data and put everything on the 18th into that data stream, no matter where it goes in that supply chain, whether it be a graphic device that can pull it and say, oh, you know what, this is 18. Let me go ahead and do a hole pop of this. Or replay has that in there. And in a replay perspective, it'll have it in there. I can play a live shot in. It'll go ahead and do a trace. But if I record that shot and I want to play it back, I play it through that same device where the live was, and I can do a trace. Why? Because I have that data that's in there. So when you go back to our beginning part of it, where the 3View is from an automated perspective, if I have that -40 that is in there that has that metadata, now that automation piece of it gets even better because I can add so much other content and data and other analytics that just because I have, say, 12 to 15 pieces of data there, I can pull other things in or other people can read it so I can actually display it that way. I haven't talked to you about this at all.
Love it.
But I'm very geek out about this kind of stuff.
So let me ask you this. Are the fans ready for that kind of data in their broadcast?
It may not be that we're displaying some of it. There are certain things that we will display it, but like part of the automation piece of it is going to be very, very key, very, very critical for us. But I mean, you think about it this way is that for me to be able to do the every shot or the trace on every single thing too, that will be part of this. That whole data insertion in the beginning of the media supply chain will help us across the entire way through. And it'll help with other type of automation pieces because we have that data in there.
And I think the challenge that you guys have, unlike most other sports, as we talk about all the time, is other sports have white lines on the field or on the ice or on the court. They have a roof over the arena in some cases. Right. You guys don't. You guys are expansive and across 18 fields of play, and you move every single week. So having that data set and being able to establish some of that in advance should make the production process smoother and easier, right?
Yeah. I mean, I had mentioned, when we started our MAM back in 2010, we used Shotlink as basically the gold standard for everything that we did for moving forward. For those that have ever followed golf before, there was a player by the name of Mark Calcavecchia. And in our old system, if you looked at our tagging of how we tagged it, it was misspelled about 18 times. We no longer have that. Why? Because we attach it directly to our Shotlink system. Our Shotlink system, it's basically either a click of a button or it's an automation process that tells you who the player was and how to spell their name properly because it just automatically gets put in there. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This is awesome. I'm excited to see where this goes next and appreciate your time. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you.
Enjoy NAB.